Hey, we're going to look at claims today. We're going to develop a claim on our own. So far, we've been looking at different types of claims. And so the job today is to practice writing a claim that is arguable and supportable with logic and reason. So for starters, your claim has to be arguable. The whole point of making a claim is to make an argument. So if you state something or claim something that's not arguable, you're not getting the mark, right? So it can't be verifiable, it can't just be a fact, and it can't simply be an opinion or a value. It has to be something that's also supportable, something that you plan to follow up with specific examples and explanation. And so this is where hypothetical arguments can kind of fall flat a little bit. When you're making a hypothetical argument, you're basically arguing a what if. That doesn't mean that the logic in a hypothetical situation can't be valid in an argument, but you need to connect it to something real, hopefully an example that backs up that hypothetical situation. As I've got on the slide here, if you're making a real and valid point, then there should be a real and valid example from history or current events, something you've read, or personal experience even, that would help make your argument valid. So when you elaborate your reasoning, I'll move myself out of the way so you can kind of read the slide here. You have to be able to explain how and why the examples that you use are relevant to the claim that you make. So your evidence doesn't speak for itself. It doesn't go without saying. And we'll talk about this a lot when we talk about generating body paragraphs in an argument or basically developing your points beyond the claim. You're going to need to be able to back up what you say with examples and also with some good commentary, some explanation. So how does a claim like this look? Two easy methods for thesis or claim writing is to look at an open or a closed thesis. And so they're pretty similar. The primary difference is that the claim, if the claim is closed, it doesn't only specifically offer a policy that you want the audience or whoever's speaking wants the audience to support. It also outlines the steps of reasoning to provide context in that claim. Okay, we're going to look at an example of both of these so you kind of see the difference. But an open thesis only offers the point that the speaker wants to make, the change that they're trying to make happen. And so when you go with an open format, it still requires you to support your idea with reasoning, but that reasoning might not appear until later into the body paragraphs or into the multiple points of your argument if you're speaking it. So let's look at an open thesis first. So we've got an example here. The KDISD school board should approve a later start time for high school students. Okay, this is a policy claim, right? It's asking for a specific change. It's pretty clear here that the KDISD school board would be the intended audience, maybe the community that the KDISD school board oversees is part of that audience too. So it's asking for change that is going to help make it arguable. It's going to have to be supported later with values, right? Why should we want the KDISD school board to approve a later start time for high school students? Well, we could suggest that people want students to learn more efficiently during the school day. That's our reasoning, our value for making this change is because it's going to help students learn better. The facts that'll support that opinion, that it's going to help make students learn better, is that studies have shown in the past that teens who are still developing need more sleep than adults to function at their highest potential. And so if they're up late doing homework, starting school earlier and earlier and earlier is going to actually take away from their effective learning time and energy during the day because their body just simply needs more time to rest because they're still growing. And so we're using a fact and a value to support our policy, but we're not really suggesting those facts and values in the claim. Okay? The only thing we have in the claim is a simple request for that change. And so it's a statement of a claim of policy. So let's look at the same type of, or the same argument, right? But let's look at it with a closed claim, closed thesis. So the KDSD school board should approve a later start time for high school students because doing so will better enable students to perform at peak efficiency during learning time. Okay? Now I haven't made my whole argument, but what I've got here is a claim of policy, and I have a little suggestion on where I'm going in terms of my values and the facts that I might provide later in the argument. Okay? So the only difference here, there's no right or wrong one to use, because ultimately I have to make the whole argument anyway, regardless of how I phrase it in my claim. Some writers might choose to use a closed thesis because they like to have their whole idea kind of encapsulated in one place. Sometimes for an audience, it might make the argument a little bit easier to follow along with, because especially if it's like an objectionable idea, it's really easy to dismiss an open thesis, right? I'll go back to this slide. So if I say the KDSD school board should approve a later start time for high school students, and someone doesn't know anything about, growth and development or any of these other reasons, they could just say, no, they shouldn't. I don't want that. I don't like it. And so with a closed thesis, sometimes it helps a little bit, because now when I say that I want to approve a later start time, but I say a reason for why I want that to happen, it's going to help students learn better. Now, if I'm in the audience, maybe I'm a little bit more intrigued. I say, okay, well, maybe I need to know more, right? Is it really going to help students learn better? Tell me how it's going to help students learn better, okay? And so still a claim policy, still asking for change. The supporting values in our example are the same. People want students to learn more effectively during the school day, right? I mean, that's the appeal we're trying to make to the audience. And then the facts, the studies that show that teens need more sleep than adults to function at their highest potential. Okay, we've already started to introduce these ideas in the claim. And so so that's the difference between an open claim, an open thesis, and a closed thesis. Okay, and so on the next slide, I'm going to have you guys try to write one. I'm going to ask you guys to write a closed thesis. Okay, I'm going to give you a prompt and basically let you guys practice putting one of these together. Okay, so work on the practice slide or the practice question on the next slide, and your flipped lesson is finished, and I'll see you in class tomorrow.